Hundred Years' War, John Talbot. The 100 Years' War was a series of conflagrations from 1337 to 1453, waged between England's two ruling parties, the House of Plantagenet and its male heritage line offshoot House of Lancaster, and the French House of Valois, for the right to rule France. Paused and recommenced over 116 years, the protracted war saw 5 generations of kings from the rival dynasties compete for the largest throne in Western Europe. No exacting figure of military fatalities exists, but historians place the 100 Years' War death toll at roughly 3.5 million lives, making it among the deadliest conflicts in history. The final major engagement, 1453's Battle of Castillon, put an exclamation point on a French victory in which England lost nearly all territory on mainland Europe. The battle resulted in only about 100 French casualties, while English losses eclipsed 4,000. Among the reasons for this lopsided result is that Castillon marked the first major battle in which field artillery, namely, cannons, played a decisive role. Another reason for the bloodbath, though, was English commander John Talbot. Not realizing the cannon had made certain military tactics horrifically obsolete, Talbot stormed the fortified French position without reinforcements, then refused to withdraw even after realizing the dug-in French forces equaled or outnumbered his own. Defenseless and with no one coming to help, nearly the entire army was cut apart by cannon fire, Talbot included. American Civil War, John Jefferson Williams. Even after April 9, 1865, when Robert E. Lee surrendered the Army of Northern Virginia to Union General Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, skirmishes and even full-fledged battles continued for several weeks. Confederate President Jefferson Davis ordered various smaller, scattered rebel forces to continue the conflict. And though the largest remaining band of Confederates, Joseph E. Johnston's Army of Tennessee, instead chose to lay down its arms to General William Tecumseh Sherman in North Carolina, others fought on. In southern Texas, Union and Confederate forces had sensed the war nearing an end for months, and had kept an unofficial truce for most of 1865. Enter Union Colonel Theodore H. Barrett. Newly assigned to command an all-black unit and never having been involved in combat, on May 12, Barrett ordered an unprovoked attack on a Confederate camp near Fort Brown, on the banks of the Rio Grande. Officially called the Battle of Palmetto Ranch, Barrett's two-day attack failed miserably. Confederate casualties were a mere half-dozen, including 9 killed. In addition to over 100 captured, Union casualties numbered over 115 with up to 30 killed, incredibly heavy losses considering only 500 Northerners participated. On May 13, it's generally believed that 22-year-old John Jefferson Williams, a private in the 34th Regiment Indiana Infantry, became the last soldier to die in the Civil War. While some argue his final death actually occurred 6 days later in Alabama, that fatality, Corporal John W. Skinner, was caused by an ambush rather than anything resembling a battle. Second Boer War, Ferdinand Jacobs Potgieter. Fought from October 1899 through May 1902, the Second Boer War pitted British Empire forces, England, Canada, Australia and New Zealand, against 2 independent republics, the South African Republic and the Orange Free State. The latter 2 were known as Boer states, self-governed republics created by Dutch-speaking inhabitants of southern Africa in the latter half of the 19th century. Officially, the conflict was fought over the British Empire's continued, yet somewhat waning, influence in South Africa. However, what really triggered the guns was the discovery of diamonds and gold. Outmanned and outgunned, the Boers resorted to guerrilla warfare that, for a time, was highly effective against their more conventional opponents. In fact, over the course of the war the British suffered more than 22,000 killed to the Boers' 6,200. But while uneven losses and home field advantage may have won the day under business as usual conditions, the British would not be denied what proved among the world's richest diamond reserves. The Empire brought in more men and more material and employed scorched earth measures to smoke the Boers out of the brush. The war came to a climax on April 11, 1902, during the Battle of Ruel. By this time, the British had their foes cornered, giving the Boers two options: surrender or charge an entrenched line. They chose the latter, gallantly storming the British guns on horseback. Their attack was easily repulsed. 51 Boers were killed, including the engagement's chief officer, Commandant Ferdinand Jacobs Potgieter. The aftermath of his death became one of the war's most haunting images. World War I, Lieutenant Thomas. Much has been made about American Henry Gunter, who was officially recognized as the last soldier killed in the First World War. With the armistice scheduled to take effect at 11 a.m. on November 11, 11/11 at 11/1918, Gunter and a handful of other soldiers advanced on a German machine gun installment. The guns opened fire, and the Americans hit the deck. Realizing it was just a few minutes until 11, everyone stayed put. Everyone, that is, except Gunter. He got up, charged and, refusing to stand down even after German gunners waved him off, got himself killed. The time was 10:59 a.m., oddly considering his seemingly stubborn stick-to-it vileness. A year earlier Gunter had been demoted after military censors intercepted a letter he sent home criticizing the war. Gunter was not, however, the last combatant killed that day. While Germany's records are unclear about its final combat death, the last German, and last soldier overall, killed was likely an infantryman known only as Lieutenant Thomas. In the moments after 11 o'clock, he approached some American soldiers to let them know that, since the war was over, he and his men were vacating a house and it would be available for their use. Unfortunately, no one had informed the Americans of the armistice, so they shot and killed him.